is a real, it doesn't go contrary to cultures existing, because growth is part of survival. It's not the stagnation, then you don't survive. And so there's I think really a lot of social science application. I do it in my class every day. So.
That's great. Anybody else? I prefer it when we're not doing all the talking and I can have a beer. Anything else? Any other comments? Those are great. My little bit is to take a few minutes to give you kind of a high-level overview of what's happening regionally, as well as more locally in Akron. And I'm representing kind of the University of Akron, but also GL Bio, which Carol will also talk about in a different way, as well as a bunch of the partners that GL Bio and the University of Akron are working with, which includes the Cleveland Institute of Art, community colleges like Lorain County Community College, and four-year programs like Baldwin Wallace and Hiram and others. And basically, what I'm going to describe for you is kind of an ecosystem that's emerging, partially from the foundation that a lot of you actually probably spent some blood, sweat, and tears over the years through E4S and others. An ecosystem that's emerging around biomimicry that GL Bio is kind of taking the next step in raising to the next level. So the GL Bio is a collaborative that's sort of self-assembled out of E4S and other local networks. It is a not-for-profit company now that has filed for 501c3 status. I think I got all the letters and numbers in the right order. Its basic goal is to use biomimicry as a way to drive economic development through education and research in a way that not only promotes economic development through sustainable practices and activities, but also creates our region, Northeast Ohio, as a global hub for knowledge about biomimicry and technologies and thinking about biomimicry. So really, it's about creating a place of innovation, as Gina mentioned. I think really described really nicely. Creating this place again as a place of innovation that the world looks to for answers to big problems and for sort of creativity and solutions. And just as a way to buttress that, because the goal to be a global leader is kind of a big goal. I'm a transplant to this area. I wasn't aware of the history of this place, Northeast Ohio in general, places like Cuyahoga County. This is a figure that shows patents produced between the years of 1870 and 1930. The blue line is Cuyahoga County. The pink is every place else in the United States. Basically, over that time period, Cuyahoga County was producing patents at 4 to 8 times the rate of virtually any place else in the United States. And they were not, by the way, pieces of paper that were all being filed away and never looked at again, which a lot of patents, that's their fate. These were actually innovations from inventors that created companies like Brush Electric, which developed like mercury vapor lighting, a new innovative way of creating exterior lighting that was rolled out to the country and to the world, or White Motor Company, which was basically a hub of innovation for motor applications in industrial settings. Of course, the steel industry, and even some very early attempts at kind of alternative energy generation through wind turbines and the like. So innovation and global leadership, I like to think, as a transplant to this place, is in the DNA of this place. And so that kind of aspiration for being a global leader and thinking about innovation in a deep way is not something we don't know how to do or that we can't reconnect with and achieve again. So I think that's a really powerful context for some of the things that we're talking about. The fellows already mentioned some of the specific applications. There are others. You can go to a website like Biomimicry 3.8 or Ask Nature and find lots of other applications that are actually in the marketplace or about to enter the marketplace. GL Bio, University of Akron, CIA, and you guys as participants, we're all thinking bigger though. I mean, all of those applications are important and they're substantive and they make a difference. But we're also thinking about the grand problems, the grand challenges. The National Academy of Engineers last year convened a panel of the smartest engineers in the world and asked them, what are the biggest problems we have that we have to solve? And they came up with a list of 14 things. These are 4 of those 14 things. And what the criteria were to make it on the list was, it's a huge problem that if we don't solve, our very persistence is threatened. And the other is that we don't currently have technologies to solve the problems. So these are things we have to solve that we don't know how to solve. GL Bio's idea, and collectively the idea of the region, is that through biomimicry and raising our region's economic sustainability and capacity, we can actually begin to tackle some of these problems and roll out solutions that make sense for our region, as well as are substantive with solving these problems on a global basis. 2 examples of these big problems for which emerging technologies are appearing. There are several companies, this is one example, that are trying to make solar cell or solar collection devices that, instead of using a photovoltaic platform, are trying to make a biofuel the way a plant captures sunlight and makes carbohydrates as a biofuel to run its own organism. Another example is a company called Calera out on the West Coast that has several pilot plants. And basically, a chemist came up with this idea. He took the recipe from coral animals that make a hard shell that you're familiar with if you've ever dived or snorkeled. Take the recipe for how they take salt water and make a hard shell, and use that to make a building material, a building product like concrete, which in its production actually sucks CO2 out of the atmosphere. Instead of concrete, which is us mining limestone, the shells, the relic shells of these long gone animals that we grind up to make a building material that releases tremendous amounts of CO2. So it turns the building material into a net negative carbon footprint, which is, again, addressing one of those big problems. So these are, again, not fantasies. These are emerging technologies that are either in pilot or that advancements recently are suggesting will come to reality. Okay, so GL Bio is kind of this collaborative organization that is connecting a number of assets in our region, including foundations, industrial partners, which I'll talk about in a second, the K-12 platform for how we educate our youth, colleges and universities, community colleges and others. And University of Akron has done some significant things recently to raise the capacity of this fabric, of this broad regional collaboration. And that is, last year, the university made the decision, based on some proposals that were submitted, to fund the creation of a biomimicry research and innovation center with $4.25 million, basically allowing us to hire between 15 and 20 new faculty on the campus to do biomimicry research, coming from all disciplines: social sciences, actually design and the arts, engineering, biology, chemistry, and the like. Our idea at the university is I think, fitting of our position, our role, is to help create this emerging discipline that is biomimicry. It's a very old paradigm, but it isn't a discipline, and you can't find degree programs anywhere in the world, although at the University of Akron with these fellows, we're starting to train PhDs in biomimicry. This research center will help us step up that capability. And then, as a member of this large collaborative, with the efforts of many of you, we're going to be creating this ecosystem that has a global impact. The basic model that the fellows are working under, just to give you a sense of what we're doing at the University of Akron with the Cleveland Institute of Art, is we're bringing 8 fellows like these students in each year, and 4 of them are being sponsored by global but local or regional corporations to work in the research labs of faculty, as well as in the R&D of the company. So they're essentially embedded 16 to 20 hours a week because they're sponsored by the companies, but they're also translating and communicating with the faculty and the other students doing research on campus to integrate those efforts. Partnered with these corporate fellows are 4 fellows that are funded by foundation streams of funding that will partner with K-12 teachers in the classroom to work a little bit in the classroom, but primarily to work with teachers to do professional development and to bring the teachers into the design studios at the Cleveland Institute of Art and the research labs at the University of Akron so that they can do biomimetic research and biomimetic design as a way to help them partner with the students to create curricula around biomimicry in their classrooms. So we're trying to create this continuum, this educational continuum that's connected to the corporate and commercial innovation landscape. So you've met already Bill, Emily, and Daphne. Actually, they're going to tell you a little bit about themselves. And so I think I just want to mention that these are the companies that they're partnered with. Parker Hannifin, a $10 billion global giant, thinks that biomimicry is an important tool to have in its toolbox for R&D. Sherwin-Williams in Cleveland, same story. Gojo right here in Akron has sponsored one of these fellows. And Ross Environmental in Lorain County is another one of our partners. We're in the process of bringing 4 more partners in for fall of 2013 and to expand it to a group of 20, a standing population size of 20 corporate partners, so that at any given time after 5 or 6 years, we'll have 20 of these fellows and 20 of these corporate sponsors matched up with 20 fellows in the school system. So 40 biomimicry fellows that are connecting these 2 often disconnected communities. Okay, so I'm gonna segue and let Emily come up and talk, and then I'd be happy to take some questions later if you like.
Okay, so like Peter said, I'm partnered with Gojo, headquartered right in Akron. And I graduated from Colgate University, which is a small liberal arts college in upstate New York. While I was there, I was studying international relations and environmental studies, like I said. But also while I was there, I participated in a study abroad program in the spring semester of my junior year in Australia. And that was a natural sciences program. I studied at the University of Wollongong in New South Wales. It's a very forward-thinking university. It's consistently ranked in the top 2% of universities worldwide. And they are one of the first universities that's starting to incorporate biomimicry into their science curriculum. So I'd never heard of biomimicry, but I enrolled in a class that focused on the biomimicry potential of Australia's rainforest and reef species. And in particular, I looked at the Australian jewel beetle and the red algae. And these are 2 really neat organisms. The jewel beetle has sensory organs under its thorax and on its antenna that allow the organism to detect forest fires up to a mile away, because they want to go and find those burnt down trees to lay their eggs in so that the larvae have a better chance of surviving, because the natural defense mechanisms of those trees will be hindered by the fact that they've been burned. So for a human, that would be the equivalent of a human standing at a point and being able to detect a fire that's 15.5 miles away from the point where he or she is standing. So it's pretty incredible that this little bug can do that. And it's inspiring the next generation of in-home fire detectors that are cheaper to make than conventional detectors, and because of that, they're going to be accessible to the developing world. And then the red algae is also a native Australian species, a reef species, and they emit pheromone molecules which disrupt bacterial communication. So bacteria doesn't colonize on the plant. So researchers are looking into this plant as a potential model for developing new age, no-kill antibiotics. So if we have a no-kill antibiotic, meaning it doesn't attack the bacteria directly and instead just makes it so they can't colonize, then the patient wouldn't be developing immunoresistance. So this could be huge. So the hook for me in all of this, like I said in a prior section, biomimicry and sustainability, biomimicry reframes environmental issues as economic opportunities. And so when I graduated from Colgate, there weren't any graduate programs in biomimicry that were being offered in the US. So I took a job working in business development for EA Engineering, which is an environmental consulting company that's in Baltimore. And I really enjoyed working on behalf of the environment at EA, but I kept thinking about how biomimicry takes sustainability and environmental consciousness to a level that I feel traditional environmental consulting and green-mindedness just can't. So I continued to explore higher education opportunities, and when I read that the University of Akron was building the first ever biomimicry PhD program, I applied right away. I was accepted, and then I was paired with Gojo.
So for those who wonder how to pronounce my name, Daphne Fichet Lippens, but it's okay if you say it otherwise. I've heard Stephanie a lot of times, but my real name is Daphne. I was born and I grew up in Ghent, which is in the Flemish part of Belgium. And after graduating high school, I really didn't know what my next step should be. I enjoyed biology classes, but I also had a natural attraction to design. And eventually I ended up studying biotechnology. But along the way, I realized that that field was too narrow-minded for me. And luckily, I heard Janine Benyes give a talk in Brussels, where she got me even more excited about biomimicry because she convinced me that biomimicry really can make a difference in the world, and I wanted to be part of it. And that is why I applied and luckily got accepted for an 8-month program called the Biomimicry Specialty Certificate, which is offered by Biomimicry 3.8. Those are mainly web-based classes and assignments, but we also had 3 in-person sessions, and in my case that was in the Boston area. And it was during the first in-person session while we were sitting around the bonfire, and Doug Page, who was my instructor at the time, and who is also the one of the collaborators of this PhD, and he teaches industrial design at Cleveland Institute of Art. And he told me that the University of Akron would be offering the very first and only PhD in biomimicry. And maybe you cannot really tell it from the picture, but you can imagine that I was totally excited about this news. And that's what brought me to Akron. I can't believe it's almost a year that I'm here now. I've been working in the lab of Dr. Shalky, who does research on the incredible colors of birds. And what is especially extraordinary of some colors is that they are produced without pigments. And these colors are called structural colors. When humans want to create color, we use paint. But a lot of paints contain pigments, which are often toxic and very energy intensive to produce. And also, after a while, we have to repaint because the colors fade away. Instead, birds and other organisms can create color by reflecting incoming light in a way that certain wavelengths get amplified by constructive interference. So the only requirement for them to create very intensive and vivid plethora of colors is the presence of light. My research is sponsored by Parker Hannifin, which is a Fortune 500 company that is specializing in motion and control technologies. Their headquarters is in Merrifield Heights, which is in Greater Cleveland. And it has been a real big challenge, but a good one, to get to know more about the fascinating but apparently very complicated world of hose production. But as you can think of hoses as tubular structures, I soon realized that nature can provide many examples, and our own veins is just one example that can help me to look at hoses differently.
Okay, so I think I'm the next. So my name is Bill Shum, and my real name is Shum Kai. We put the surname in front, and Sir Sherwin Williams is my sponsor. And I came from Taiwan. And here you see an enlarged, zoom-in version of this little square of this world map. And Taiwan is right here on this island. It's about 36,000 square kilometers, a little bit larger than Belgium. And we have more than 23 million people living on that island. Even though Taiwan is still not an official member of the United Nations, but without a doubt, we are an independent country. And Taiwan is different from Thailand that's here, and China that's here. Next one. So my biomimicry journey started in 2006 when I first came to the States to study and as a trained molecular biologist and biochemist. And since I always want that my research can have a broader impact to the general public, so at that time I think studying biomedical science is a good approach. So I went to the Riverside, California and studied my biomedical science degree there. And in 2009, I finished my study and moved to San Diego working in a bioengineering institute. And at the same time, I watched a TED Talk on the internet given by Janine Bennett about biomimicry. And that's the moment I realized, actually, biomimicry is the thing that I was always looking for. So I applied to the same biomimicry specialty program, but during until 2011, my visa was due, so I have to go back to Taiwan. But immediately after I just get back to Taiwan, I get accepted to that biomimicry specialty program. So over 2011, I flew to the States 3 times to attend my in-person session of biomimicry. And here at Santa Barbara, California, I learned about this special PhD program focused in biomimicry here. So I just cannot let this opportunity slip. So I applied, and a year later, summer last year, I was here in this area. And not only that, the faculty in this program is world class. So 2 of the faculties in the program actually contribute to the finding of top 10 new species for Times Top 10 of Everything list on 2010. And very fortunate, both are my advisors in the program. So Dr. Blackage here actually helped the finding of Darwin's bark spider. This spider has the world's toughest silk that humans know so far. And the 5-foot penguin, of course, is not a living organism right now. It's extinct already. So it was the fossil that was found. And Dr. Shaki here used his specialty in structural colors and take a look into the nanostructure in the fossil and determine that actually those ancestors of the modern penguin, their feathers are not black and white, rather reddish brown. That's using the knowledge of structural color. And so right now I'm doing a little project that is all about this guy, the blue tarantula here. So I combine the spider research with the structural color research. We measure, you can see there's a very vivid blue color coming out from this spider's hair. And we measure that color and we determine it is indeed a structural color. And we do some electron microscope imagery and to see some nanostructure actually reside within the hair. And I'm still trying to relate how those nanostructure can cause those blue appearance of the spider.
Good. All right. So.
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
I forgot to mention. So we have a blog that called Germinature. It's located at germinature.com that all the biomimicry fellows here actually co-author and maintain. So we encourage you to go up to our blog and give our feedback and suggestion, and most importantly, do discuss everything about biomimicry with us on our blog. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. I get up here and there's a note, no crowd surfing.
Sure.
So everybody's staying in your
What does that
seat.
mean? We'll make an exception.
All right. So here we are with the star at the center of the universe, or at least our universe. Cleveland, Akron area, and Akron is pretty famous in biomimicry world. And so much so that I finally had to pull some people aside and say, it's not Akron. It's Akron, because every time I would hear it, it'd be like, ooh, not quite right. So they're on the game now. They understand that. But I just want to leave you with some numbers about our Cleveland-Akron partnership in Great Lakes Biomimicry. We have 8 people who work every day to advance the ideas of educationally driven economic development for our region. We're all volunteers. Some have other jobs, and some do it full-time like I do, hoping to have a paying job someday. Over the past couple of years, there were 20 people that invested about 12,000 hours, since Sabrina and Samuel and people like that, and Gina is around here somewhere, who came to meetings and just were a part of learning about biomimicry. It's just been a really great investment by our region. I have over 200 people on my email list that I call the network, and I'd love to add you all to that. And I have about 750 people on our newsletter list. So I want to add